Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found the information on last week's show, The Influencer, Secrets to Success and Happiness, informative. If you were unable to join us and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on our YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. If you'd like to receive notifications on when our podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. If there are topics you find beneficial or questions you have, please feel free to reach out to me at media@abandp.com. Now let's learn a little bit about our guest today. Denise Belisle is founder of Denise Belisle in Motion Coaching. She's a Serenity expert and positive intelligence specialist. Her 40 years of meditation practice and her innate nature to look for the gift in everything around her allows her to guide her clients to new levels that were inaccessible for them before. Her clients can have a successful career without burnout, and they can also go home energized and spend quality time with their loved ones. So Denise, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, I'm glad to have you. I know it will be an interesting topic, but before we get into the actual questions on the topic, I always ask my guests to just tell us a little bit more about themselves and how did they even get involved in what they're doing. So tell us a little bit more about how you started in this field.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for asking. It's pretty interesting because I initially, my study were in engineering and computer programming. So we're totally different field whatsoever. So I work with computers and methodology and science, for several years. And then at some point I need to be with people. And I've always been interested into health and wellness along the way as I was moving forward. And I did 20 years of massage therapy. I'm not registered, so body work therapy with people. And I met so many people that are coaches right now that used to be or are massage therapists, because we are coaches when we do massage. Because what do people do when they're on the table? They talk about their problem. And then what do? You help them work through their problem verbally and with your hands. And so I became a coach because I felt that I could help more people and on a larger scale, as we are doing now, broadcasting and everything, and doing group coaching. And that's pretty much how I got to become a coach. Like, it was just innate in me because it was a passion for health, wellness. And in the last 10, 20 years, I've been more working on mindset and the brain and stress. And I feel that it's so interesting to work with people's mindset and how they can switch their mindset and become another person that is more supportive for themselves, right? As opposed to, we know how we can drag ourselves down, but I like to work on the opposite and lifting yourself up.
Perfect. Well, I know you have the topic Serenity expert. So for those who are listening who are thinking, well, what exactly is that? Can you define that for me?
Yes, absolutely. Serenity expert, why I chose that title, let's put it this way, is you will find around there's people that says, oh, I'm a stress relief coach. I'm a, stress management coach. And what I found is I don't want to talk about what I don't want to have. I want to talk about what I want to have. I want to talk about the outcome and not the problem. So that's where I came with Serenity Expert. And I feel that for me, living in serenity, it's a much greater goal than living without stress. And that's why that's what Serenity Expert mean. And that's where it came about. It's more about visualizing what I want to achieve for myself and for my clients, as opposed to the opposite.
Well, what would you say is the difference then between like serenity and happiness too? Because someone might think, oh, you're talking about happiness, but that's not always the same thing. So what's the difference in your mind?
Well, serenity is when you feel comfortable. Like you don't have, like happiness is, or joy, depend on which people use both, but let's use happiness as the ultimate, feeling. Happiness is like you experience, actually they're quite similar, but happiness is more a state of mind of actually, now that I try to describe that, they're quite similar, because I'm trying to break them down, and but serenity is more like a state of awe, but without anything. Like you can be, it's how you act and react in any situation in your life. Instead of being upset, what I have, a show, and I call it "It's All Good," and that's because of my cup. It's all good, and that's where the name came from. But it's something I say all the time, and why I say that is because when you live in serenity, regardless of what happened 5 minutes ago, let's say it's upsetting. Well, there's no point being upset about something that happened 5 minutes ago because you can't change it. So being serene is accepting that, is living with that, and to look for, let's say it's something that you can fix, right? Well, look for solution as opposed to be upset. So for me, being serene is in that state of mind. And as for happiness, is just feeling happy, but happy for no reason. Like I don't feel happy because I have a great job. I don't feel happy because I have a loving cat. I don't feel happy because, but happiness is something that it's always it's a state that I'm always in. But serenity is more, how do I deal with situation that comes my way? Which would be like, the opposite would be like, okay, I feel stressed out. No, I feel serene. I'm going to live in that situation in a serene way. Now, I think I found my answer. I think it was tricky though. You tricked me, but I like how it came out, because it's the way it is. Or the future, if you have anxiety for what's going to happen in the future, well, instead of having anxiety, I'm going to look at the future with serenity and then take the proper direction in order to go where I want to go in the future, instead of having anxiety and being stressed out about what might happen, what could happen. But happiness should always be present regardless.
Oh, that's important too, for sure. So I know our topic today, we're going to talk about 3 core muscles that entrepreneurs need to develop. So what are those 3 core muscles?
Well, there's what we talk about. I work with positive intelligence. And with positive intelligence, the way that works is that we have the saboteurs. So first of all, I'll explain a little bit of a backstory, is that we have the saboteurs, and the saboteurs are what are the negative voices we hear on our mind. And these voices are not really supportive. They're not really helping us. They're not supporting our mindset and the way we are dealing with life. They're more dragging us down or pushing us, but in a negative way, and the outcome is not always positive. It could be successful, but not positive. So the first core muscle is the saboteur interceptor. So what does that mean? That means that you notice that the saboteurs are there. You can notice that if you worry about anything in your life, could be business, relationship, personal. If you have, let's say you're an avoider. So instead of going into an argument, you would say, no, that's fine. I'm good with that, because you don't want to go argue. So you're an avoider. But then what happened internally is that your saboteurs back you off. But then what happened is that you're not happy, because in reality, you would have loved in some ways to voice your opinion, but you want to avoid any confrontation. So you stay quiet. And in the end, you go home and you pout because, oh, I never get my way. I never get to say what I want to say. but then you don't want to confront. So it's sort of, but interceptors is the first core muscle, and that's what allows you to become aware of your saboteur. So let's take back the situation where and you agree instead of voicing your opinion and avoid confrontation or somebody not agreeing with you. Well, then you notice your saboteur and you say, oh, here's my saboteur again that wants me to avoid voicing my opinion. I'm not going to listen to it, and I'm going to go and voice my opinion, and whatever happened. So that's the first one, which is the, as I mentioned, the saboteur interceptors. The second one is the sage. So what's the sage? The sage is when you are more aware of the situation, and then you look for the positive side. When you work in the sage mode, what happens is you are working towards being curious, having more positive emotion. You deal with it goes in the brain in a more positive emotion, more peace, more calm, clear-headed focus. You're more creative, and you can see the whole big picture as opposed to narrow-minded focus when you live in negativity. So when you operate with the sage perspective, is every outcome or circumstances can turn out to be a gift or an opportunity. So you look at a situation, like let's say I was mentioning earlier, like if something bad happened 5 minutes ago, or even a day or a year ago, it's like, okay, what's the gift in that? We've heard like people that are losing their job, but when they stay open, to the possibilities, they will move in life. And then in the end, they might have a better job. They might find better relationship, regardless of, like I've heard a story of a man. He was like one of the dean in a university, and then he started to change his mindset and work more with the sage, and then he lost his job. And he said, that stuff doesn't work. Look at me, I lost my job. I'm working in a more positive way, and I lost my job. But in the end, he got a better job with a better salary. The first job was taking too much of his time. He didn't have time for relationship. He found the love of his life. If you look in the end, it was a good move that he lost that job, because the outcome was more positive. But if you stay in the negative and you close your mind and all you focus on is the lost, then you don't see the other opportunities that are coming up your way. So anything could be positive or negative, right? So that's what the way we see that is. Do you want to see it in a more positive way? Any situation, there's always a gift. So finally, the third core muscle is self-command. So what that is it's almost like it's mental fitness. With positive intelligence, we talk about mental fitness. It's like going to the gym. So self-command is doing, we call that PQ, like positive quotient reps, like it's almost lifting your weight. Right. So it's doing exercise. It's doing some exercise that will allow you to work on your operating systems, the way you see things, and to quiet down your mind in order to allow your greatness to come out. So it's like little exercise, little quick, snappy, sometimes it could be 10 seconds, or you can do it for 15 minutes. It's just doing a stop. I call that more like doing a stop and becoming aware of the situation and bringing yourself back into where you want to go, as opposed to getting on a far train of anger and resentment and going off on a tangent on that way. It's more, okay, let's take back the avoider situation of earlier. You have a situation where you would like to voice your opinion. You see your saboteurs. You say, so the first one, you notice the saboteurs. Oh, I see that I'm limiting myself from expressing myself because I want to avoid a confrontation. 2 is the sage. You say, hey, there's something good that will come out of that. If I voice myself, things might change. So let's do that. So you voice yourself. And 3, the self-command is as you work with that, let's say you're in a meeting, you can just close your eyes for 10 seconds, or keep your eyes open and be totally aware of one object in a room, and do a focus event, practice, just so that you quiet your mind. And then that's where you say, okay, that's when you talk to your saboteurs, and then you say, okay, I don't want this saboteurs right now. I want to voice my opinion. I'm strong. I can voice myself, and everything that's going to come out of that's going to be whatever it is. But if I don't voice myself, it'll be worse. So that's the self-command. It's like you really put yourself into the action of doing the things that you want to do in order to move forward. So in a nutshell, these are those three core muscles.
Okay. And when you're talking about like those saboteurs, I assume those are all like internal mental things that we have our own issues with, whether it's self-doubt or fear or, the imposter syndrome, that we've heard about before. So it's all just those negative thoughts that we have about ourselves, correct?
Yes. Like we with positive intelligence, we have giving name and personality. So, and in the end, I'll give a link of where you can download a chart. I think I have it right here. It looks something like that. Like it gives you all the saboteurs and who they are and what they do. So you have an avoider, a stickler, a restless, somebody that always have to be busy, always have, like, you would never, you know people like that, I'm sure, that they can never sit down quiet and just chill. They always have to do something. There's the pleaser, the someone that will always do things for others. And I'm a pleaser. And then I realized that I made the distinction between the two, being, working with people, doing body work, being a coach. A lot of those people are pleaser because you want to help society, you want to help people. But it's when you do things and then you have resentment about doing that. If somebody asks you to help them move and you say, sure, I'll go help you. And then come Saturday morning at 7:00, it's like, what the hell have I done? I don't want to go help them move, but I'm stuck now. I said yes. And then you do it, but you kind of do it backwards. So that's the negative stuff about pleaser. There's the hypervigilant that's always worrying about everything. So I know some people like that they always have to plan and triple check everything before you go on a trip. Okay, do we have this? Do we have that? It's good to be vigilant, but when it gets to the extreme and to being very negative, like if you forget something, we have to go back. We can't go without it. Like what's going to happen? Like, so that's extreme, right? So that's what happened with the saboteurs. It always goes to the extreme, to the most negative feeling, and it's not pleasant. And when you use the sage, let's say, for example, with the hypervigilant, by using the sage, so let's say you're on the road now and you forgot something and say, oh, we forgot to bring this. Oh, well, that's okay. We'll buy it. Next time I've got to make better care and to pack it. But that's okay. Right. We can buy that if we really need it. Right? So that will be the sage talking as opposed to the other ones. We have to go back, whatever, So, right. And then there's others. There's the controller. And then the one that we can identify is usually the judge. The judge is like the master of them all. That is the voice that will tell you, well, you're not good enough. Why do you think you can do this? Like, look at yourself. You're fat, you're skinny, you're too, your hair too short, too long. You have white hair, you have gray hair, you have, your hair is too brown. I don't know. Like the one that always, you have a wrinkle, you have a pimple, will judge you, you got to cover that pimple. What would people say? So that's the judge. He's always like criticizing or judging others too. Right? Like, oh, look at this woman, look at that dress. She should never wear that dress in public, Or you go to the gym, that's a good place to judge people, right? You see all type of people doing all type of things, and then the judge is there. So that's what, once you recognize those, and we do an assessment, and once you receive the download, you have at the end of the download a link you can go to and do an assessment that will give you who are your top saboteurs and what that looks like. And then once you do that, it's really funny because you say, oh yeah, I recognize that. And there's a full description of who are those saboteurs. And it's very interesting to see the outcome and to see what people recognize themselves so much. A lot of time, it's very rare that I had someone do the assessment and they say, oh no, that wasn't really Wasn't really me. It never really happened.
Right. Well, I'm thinking while you were talking about those, it seems like there can be positive sides to some of those, but the negative is maybe the underlying reasons why we are a pleaser or why we are, not just sitting down and relaxing, but just go, 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 So what do you think about that?
Well, as I mentioned, like it's good to be a vigilant. It's good to have
Mhm.
there's the hyper rational. It's good to be rational and to see things the way they are. But when it's pushed to the extreme, or when it's
Mhm.
push you in a negative way, like the hyperachiever is one that, always have to get better. Like let's say you plan to make $10,000 in your month, and then you reach it, and you say, oh, well, really, I could do better. I have to do, and you don't stop. You don't stop yourself celebrating. You don't appreciate what you've accomplished when you reach that goal. And then you say, but I can do so much better. And then you push, and then you will work really hard. Like you don't take the time to say, okay, let's have $10,000 a month for a year and see how that feels, right? And celebrate that and solidify that, and then it'll be a lot easier. Or you can try to do more, but in a more positive way, as opposed to, it's not enough, you can do so much better. Or it's how to look at things in a more positive way and a more supportive way. When you act in a sage mode, we call that the sage mode, is you become more curious, you have greater innovation into your outcome, you have more empathy towards yourself. So if you cannot achieve something, well, you're not going to hit yourself over the head with a hammer. You will understand, you'll have more empathy towards yourself and others, and so much more positive feelings, as opposed to live in anger, resentment, fear, all these negative feelings. You live more into the supportive one.
Right. So if we look at all this and we're like, yes, we know we need to, make some changes. We are looking more on the negative side instead of the positive side. And you talked about, that mental fitness. So if someone is saying, yes, I know I need to do something now to increase that mental fitness, how do they do that?
Well, we have a program that's called the Positive Intelligence Program, and I have integrated that program into my coaching. And what it is that you can do it on your own. So do it yourself. You go to the store, you buy the Positive Intelligence book from Shirzad Shamin, and then you read it. So and then you read it, and then you say, wow, this is amazing stuff. Yes, this is so good. Oh, this is incredible. I learned so much from this book. Then you put it on the shelf, it becomes shelf help, and you don't do anything about it. So yeah, you can do that. And some people use books and they use it and they get better. So you could get the book from Shirzad, and there's amazing information into that. You can also do the PQ program, which come with, when I use it in my practice, I have a 4-month program. The first 2 months is pretty much going through the book with an app, and there's videos, and there's a whole bunch. It's a big program that allows you to really understand your saboteurs, really work with them, work with the sage and all its power, and how you can enhance that. And the next 2 months, what I do is really, instead of being shelf help, because once you get aware of what that is, then it's applying it in your own life and anchoring that knowledge. Because building a habit is not, it's not erasing the past, but it's building on the present and the future, reprogramming your brain. So anything that you want to learn, you just need to enhance and build that connection. Because initially, when you start to talk about the sage and do your PQ reps and do the little exercise, little mindfulness exercise, it's not a habit. The neurological pathways in your brain is smaller than a hair, right? It's just really tiny, and there's no connection there. But the more you do it, then it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes easier. It's become your go-to. It's like the first time we start to drive a car, everything was an obstacle, right? We were like, oh, watch am I too close from the car in front of me? You stop like 20 feet in front of the car because you don't want to run into it. Or when you park, I remember I had a brand new car, and I was afraid of hitting the sidewalk. I would park that far away from the sidewalk, because I didn't want to damage the wheels, right? But eventually, I built that neurological connection of the size of the car, the da da da, and then I parked it, and I was that far, and I was fine. So that's the same thing with the PQ rep when you start practicing. So that's what in that 4 months, the way it works is the first 2 months you learn. It's more like learning practicum, the theory, and the second 2 months is the practicum, is really building the habit. Like I've had clients that are with me now for 6, 7 months because they love the support and they love moving forward, and their everyday stuff that happens, there's always something new that's going to come up that's going to trigger you, and then the neurological pathways are not strong enough to go on their own, and they love having the support of the reminder and the know how to go and face those challenges. So that's pretty much how that works.
So I just have a thought. So as an example, let's say an entrepreneur is, posting information, or they're speaking, or or things like that. But every once in a while they think, well, who am I to share this information? Like, I'm not as good of as an expert as so-and-so, right? How do they then say, actually, I do know my information and it's valuable for me to share it because those who are reading it are learning? Like, how do they, in that moment when that doubt comes, or that saboteur comes, how do they flip the switch to think from the negative to the positive?
Yeah, good question. So when you are in that mindset of imposter syndrome, which is the judge is really like putting you down and say, you're not good enough, you can't do this. Well, then you, if you do that little PQ rep, which is, we teach you how to do them, it's pretty much just a mindfulness exercise and quieting your mind, and then focusing on centering yourself and going to look for what's good in that situation, and how you go and search for innovative way, and how you can become more supportive to yourself, have more empathy for yourself. And then by doing those little exercise, what I've had comments from my clients is that it's amazing how when I regularly, because we suggest that we do that throughout the day, it's just like 2 little minutes here and there. And he said, when I do that throughout the day, I'm more in the flow, I'm more confident, things are clearer in my mind, I'm able to make better decisions. So that would be how you do that, right? Like as you work, it's not like a light switch on and off. Okay, now I feel unconfident, let's do that. But it's doing it regularly. It's like going to the gym. If you just go to the gym, there's a box you need to lift and you can't lift it. And then you say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym so I can lift it. No, it's all the work that you would have done in the last 2 months working out that allows you to lift a heavy box. It's not just going to the gym once and then now you can lift that box. So that's sort of the same thing. So that's why we suggest to people to continue on doing the PQ reps, which is like going to the gym and training your mind to not go there. Because what mental fitness is, it's almost like wearing a armor. That's how I see it. And you don't get affected by your thought. You're able to, you will have those thoughts like, who do you think you are, posting this or doing that or doing lives? People is going to judge you. People are going to say, oh, look at her. She has a fat nose. She has, big glasses. She has whatever. But then you don't go there into that judgment. You say, okay, I'm going to do a Facebook Live. And then you start to see those comments coming and say, I'm not going there. Quiet down. Shh, quiet. I'm innovative. I'm creating new ways of reaching my clients. Whomever is going to listen, and I'm going to have a great feedback. I see that by putting myself out there, I'll be seen, known, and liked and trust. And I just have to do more. Maybe the first 2 months, I won't have any comments or any positive feedback. But as I keep doing it, things are going to get better. People are going to recognize me. They'll want to listen to me. So that's how I would deal with it. But then by doing those PQ rep, regularly, in order that when things like that happen, then you're equipped to deal with the problem. It's like that big box, right? You don't go to the gym just because you want to lift a big box. You don't go to the gym once. You had to have been in the gym for the last 2 months to train in yourself.
Right. Well, overall, it sounds like, oh, it wouldn't be too difficult to change my thought patterns from the negative to the positive. When that thought comes in my mind, I'm just like, no, people aren't judging me. I can just think, it seems like it wouldn't be too hard. But yet, so many people still don't change from the negative to the positive thoughts. So, why do you think that it's so hard?
I think our brain is sort of wired to go more in the negative. Like if you look at our society, if you listen to the news, if you read the newspaper, if you watch what's going on social media, look around, you'll see a lot more negative. People praise more mistake than they will praise success. Like I just read a little article, not an article, but a little post on Facebook, and it was apparently Albert Einstein that was teaching, and he said 9 times 1, 9, 9, 9, 9. And then the last one on purpose, he said 9 times 9. He said, I don't know, the wrong number. And then everybody in the class said, oh, you put the wrong number for the, he said, oh, thank you for noticing. But then he turned around and said, isn't that interesting that I succeeded 9 times? I did well 9 times, and you didn't praise me for that. But as soon as I do one mistake, you're all on my case, and you're all telling me that it's wrong. Why don't you praise me for the 9 times that I was doing it right? And that's a good example of how we are normally in the society. We tend to go towards the negative. If we see something good, we're not necessarily going to praise it. But if we see something wrong, we're definitely going to point at it and say that this is wrong. So this is why it is harder, because all around us, we've been trained and raised to see negative first and to point out negative. So the way with positive intelligence and mental fitness is really to train yourself to switch your mindset towards the positive. See what's good around you. See what's good in your life. See how you can enhance your life. See how you can not pay attention or give energy towards the negative, because wherever you put your energy, the more you'll get of it. And that's why, as a Serenity expert, I like to put my energy more into the positive. If I talk to myself all the time, as we do, but if I do something or if I think of something negative, the first thing I reply to myself is like, that was not really loving, was it? Like I say that to myself, like I reprimand myself, and I say, and then I have that little conversation of, okay, yeah, that's true. I could have been nicer. I could have had a nicer thought. I could have said something nicer to that person or whatever. But then I say that to myself all the time. I catch myself and I say that was not really loving. And then, of course, then I have my little discussion in my head about, how I could have been more loving and move forward. And then we could do the same thing for business, for example, like, well, that was not very supportive for your business, making that decision or saying this or talking to that person. And how can you be more supportive? How can you support your business better? How can you support your clients better?
So I know we're getting close to the end of the time we have together today. So are there any last tips that you want to share to the listeners before we end today?
Yes, I can. Well, the tips I can give you is, you could download my oh, sorry, my nose itchy. You can download my Saboteurs download. And the way to do that is you go to tany.cc. Let me just read the link carefully, just in case. I think that's what that is. tiny.cc and // with a S, SABOTEURS. So tiny, like tiny.cc / saboteurs with a S. And then you will download this little sheet there. And that will give you the list of your saboteurs. And down there, you will see also at the bottom how you can do your own saboteur assessment. But without this, what I would suggest to you is just start with the first core muscle, is building awareness about your saboteurs. So become aware of those voices in your mind, your saboteur interceptors. And just doing that, just building awareness in any situation, like in everything you want to change in your life, you have to become aware of the things you want to change. So if anything you can get out of this conversation is recognize those voices and see whether they are supporting you in a positive way or whether they are pushing you in a negative way. And just by doing that, you will already started to make some changes in your life and have a more serene and peaceful life.
Nice. So if anyone wants to connect with you, besides getting your free download, how can they reach you?
Yes, I'm going to just show that. You can do a screenshot, and here it is. This is me. So that's my website. That's my email. So I would invite you to take a screenshot or write it down. I'm denisebelisle.com or denise@denisebelisle.com. And you can easily reach me there. And I'm happy to have a conversation with you, to have, I can help you with your saboteurs. We can have you do that test, the saboteur assessment. It takes 5 minutes. It's a lot of questions, but it's multiple choice, right? So it's like 1 to 5, 1 to 5, and then you just analyze yourself, and then you can find at the end. And I'm happy to have a consultation with you to talk about which one are your top saboteurs and how they are interfering in your life and how right away you can start to make some changes.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Denise, for being a guest on my show today and, talking on this
pleasure.
topic. It was interesting.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
And I do want to thank the listeners also for tuning in today. I hope you found this topic interesting and that it answered some questions about the 3 core muscles entrepreneurs need to develop to increase their mental fitness. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to Denise at the link she shared or send us a message at media@abandp.com. And would you please share the show information with those you know? I'd greatly appreciate your support. I hope you can join us for next week's topic. Business owners deserve to be financially empowered. And please remember, you can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is abandp.com. Remember, you can also find the podcast posted on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next Tuesday. Have a terrific week.